like for lots of sub-Saharan countries, you have to consider the fact that most people, even people who are educated enough to be a potential customer of a health tech app or a customer or a potential customer of a bank, they simply might not just have the buying power. For somebody who doesn't know about marketing, think about marketing as the first step to converting a total stranger to become your customer. The top platform, device-wise, I'll say it's mobile. You have to think of the fact that most people are on their mobiles these days. Most people eat, communicate, and also, would I say, move around using their mobiles. So you have to consider that. Now, what do most people do when they're on their mobile? It's either they're communicating, they're working, or they're entertaining.
Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of the Tech Culture Podcast. Just as I always tell you at this show, we always want to bring you information that can help you make money on the internet through different tools, through different techniques. And I'm right here today again with another very special guest. I'm going to be talking about digital marketing in this particular episode. So everything we're going to be talking about today is going to surround digital marketing. Now, before we go ahead into this episode, I would like you to hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is one of the things that you can do for us to support this podcast and help this podcast grow. Because liking this video, YouTube will show these videos to more people. So one of the things that I'll encourage you to do is to look at the description of this video and join our tech community. So we have a tech community where we help individuals that want to grow in the tech space, either career-wise or business-wise. And you can look at the link in the description to join our tech community. You'll be able to get access to all the materials we have that helps our community members grow in their business and grow in their career in the tech space. My guest today is Mr. Kolawole Elvis, or Elvis Kolawole. He's an amazing person. I was just complaining to him that all my friends are good looking, clean guys, except me, and I was like, am I the only one that's not doing skincare routine, that's not eating fruits, that's not sleeping well? Thank God when you run into cash, you start, taking care of yourself better and stuff like that. Then Elvis, thank you so much for coming on the Tech Culture Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And just FYI, I sleep terribly, and I barely do any skincare. I hope perhaps I'm improving that. But thank you for introducing me. I'm happy to be here.
So we're going to talking about digital marketing today. Everything about digital marketing, but our focus more is on people that don't know about digital marketing. Business owners that want to start implementing digital marketing for their business, as well as people that want to get into digital marketing for career. All right, they want to take it as a job or as a business for himself to become digital marketers. But let's start with the definition of them. So what is digital marketing as of 2024-2025 world?
I would say ultimately, digital marketing is marketing, but within digital platforms. And also, I'll say, since like the vast majority of what we do, or at least the vast majority of our lives in 2024 revolve around digital products, probably everything from how we eat our food to how we move around, to how we communicate and all that. The fact that a lot of those things are done on digital platforms means that a lot of the marketing is actually done on digital platforms. That goes from, the search engines you use to the mobile phone, the apps you use to order rides and everything that's come to encompass modern life. And what is marketing? Like for somebody who doesn't know about marketing, think about marketing as the first step to converting a total stranger to become your customer. That's the most simple way. Forget about any dictionary definition here. Think of marketing as the first step you take in making a total stranger to become your customer, whether you're a business or a person. So when that marketing process is done within a digital platform, I would say that's definitely what digital marketing is in 2024.
So I like that definition. Converting a total stranger to become your customer.
Yeah.
And so that process could take It depends. It could take a short duration. It could take 2 hours. It could take a simple conversation, or it could take 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. So everything done within that period is, and it's done on digital platforms.
Yes. Yes.
As of 2024, 2025, well, what are some of the top platforms to sell on, the market on?
I'll say the top platform device wise, I'll say it's mobile. You have to think of the fact that most people are there are mobiles these days. Most people eat, communicate, and also would I say move around using their mobiles. So you have to consider that. Now, what do most people do when they're on their mobile? It's either they're communicating, they're working, or they're entertained. So usually you want to try and put yourself in front of a customer when that person is getting entertained. You want to put yourself in front of that customer when they're trying to educate themselves. You want to put yourself in front of that customer when they're communicating with other people, whether it's a one-way communication or whether it's two-way, like we see in social media. So if you want to go more specific, so I'll say social media, of course, facilitates that kind of communication. It facilitates everything from learning to entertainment to education. Search engines are big also. I'll say search engines are primarily for communication, and also if I'll also place streaming services in there as well, because there's a whole thing called the creator economy, as you know. So
Yeah.
that involves it's basically a form of entertainment, that primarily revolves around video. That's what most people are referring to when they refer to the creator economy. So placing marketing communications within a place where somebody is likely to stream, say a Twitch, a YouTube, a Netflix, all of that, is what modern digital marketing looks like. For example, I know, for example, if I was to say trying to do marketing within a streaming platform, a person might think of having an extreme ad within a YouTube video or maybe, like an ad within YouTube. But then what that usually looks like, I mean, for the ultra modern type companies that have big budgets, is usually probably having product placements within a Twitch stream or within a YouTube stream or even within a whole Netflix show or within a HBO show. Like their entire, in fact, there are some companies that sponsor entire movies, entire shows,
series,
just to have placements in there. So, and that serves as, just like I said, the first step towards converting a total stranger to a customer. So usually that's what marketing usually is. To just put your foot in the door. When your foot is in the door, it's now in the hands of that company or, the marketeers to figure out a way to make that customer to go all the way from being a total stranger to becoming a customer. So that's an entire process. It is part of digital marketing, but at its core, it's usually the first step, to making that process happen.
You mentioned something about streaming services. Are we ever going to, this like off script now, are we ever going to see ads on Netflix, just like we see on YouTube?
Yeah, I think actually in some countries they run ads on their Netflix. I'm not quite sure. And also, as regards streaming services, you also shouldn't discount audio as well. For like many tiers of audio platforms like Spotify and AudioMac, they actually like supplement the revenue for these services using ads. So it's a core part of like their entire business model. In fact, something that they might not want you to know is that actually they might gain more money in some territories via the ads than the actual subscriptions themselves.
Yeah.
Which is actually funny, right? Because like the ads can be done at scale because a lot of people can't afford
to pay these subscriptions. Yeah.
So they can gain more money via ads than actually the subscription services. So yeah, that's really good.
So but when we're at digital marketing now, just give us 4 things, you can make it 5 if you like, that a business owner can do in digital marketing starting today. Simple things, not complicated stuff.
That depends. I would say like it's very nuanced depending on goal.
So let's say B2C. like somebody that has, let me say, an e-commerce store on Instagram and just sells on Instagram, or somebody that has a brick and mortar store, let me say they sell bread, right?
Okay. A brick of mortar
Or
store.
give digital skills school artificial marketing advice. Anyone. Yeah.
Okay, let me start with some bread. I know it's you there are some things you have to think about as regards bread. So bread, first of all, the first thing, okay, as I'm just thinking, the first thing you have to try and figure out is what your consumer actually looks like and what stage they are in what we call um either a marketing cycle or marketing maturity. And what does this mean? What place they are in the journey between becoming a stranger and buying. Usually for a person that wants to buy bread, um, usually such a person might be a stranger to your product when just immediately after they ate the very last brand of bread they had. And then the next time they can possibly be at a point where they are likely to become a customer is when they are hungry, right? So, and you also have to map out what that looks like. So usually for bread, which is like a fast consumer good, you have to understand that most people will not spend their day thinking about when to eat bread. What will actually happen is that usually what you want to do is you want to keep yourself top of mind for that consumer so that whenever that person actually wants to eat bread, they'll think of your brand.
Yeah.
So that's usually what a Coke does. Coke is not going to be all up in your face saying, hey, come and buy Coke. No, what they actually want to do is to keep themselves top of mind for you so that the day when you're thirsty, on a really hot day,
Yeah.
you think about a Coke. So usually for your target consumer, you want to figure out the ways to catch people's attention on the days when they are not thinking about bread. So that's the day when they actually need to eat bread. They think about you when they're going to their local supermarket. So first things first is figure out who your consumer is, and your consumer could pretty much be everybody in the case of bread. And then two, figure out what their marketing maturity and their consumer journey usually looks like. So the consumer journey usually determines what the marketing maturity usually will look like. So the consumer journey is simply from I'm not hungry to now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So now I'm hungry. And then when that person is hungry, they are at the most mature stage to actually be converted into a customer. And then three, you figure out what platforms you want to target a person that is possibly going to be hungry. So, so for example, for somebody that is trying to find bread, you want to find them at the places that they've already mentally associated with getting their bread. And this could be in supermarkets, it could be in an online shopping mall, it could simply be when they're engaging with other food brands. For example, you think whenever a person, for whatever reason, has engaged with butter in the past, you think, oh, if this person is actively searching for butter, maybe this person wants
buy bread also
to go with the
So
butter.
that's targeting in terms of ads.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just talking like broad based, like on the execution level. That usually looks like targeting such a person with their interest based targeting. So person that's engaged with this butter brand
might likely want to buy bread.
Yeah, and then for placements, it could also have to do with somebody that has shown interest in perhaps engaging with consumer type goods before, or maybe goods that tend to be within the supermarket. So such a person that perhaps visits a supermarket, or such a person that finds themselves in a supermarket's mailing list, or maybe a supermarket interest focus group or something, can be retargeted through Facebook ads. For example, if you have such a person's email, you can run retargeting ads that target that person either through a platform like Meta, which offers really good retargeting ads, or maybe Google Ads. which can follow that person, for lack of better word, follow that
Follow that person everywhere.
just because they happen to have an email that exists on a particular supermarket chain's email list. So yeah, so I just mentioned 3 steps: map out the customers, so figure out the customer, mark out the customer's journey, um figure out the channels to communicate to that person, and then fourth thing, actually communicate to that person using the any way of your choice. I would say I like search engine marketing. I like social media marketing, of course, because it reaches the everyday consumer.
Okay.
But then usually for services, I like search-based marketing because it's more intent-based. For example, if you are a person who needs a lawyer, if you get into trouble and you need a lawyer, chances are you
You
go to
go to
Google and
Google
you
and
search.
search. You won't go to Instagram.
Exactly, and that's the same thing as almost every other services. What is the nearest photographer closest to me?
Google.
Or pretty much every service that you think would be Googleable, you would not necessarily, that's not the kind of thing you would think to go to social media immediately to get. But it is when you Google and then you see, for example, a lawyer, then when you are trying to make your buying decision as to what lawyer you want to choose, that's when you get into the social media.
You say, okay, who
and
is
say,
this
okay,
person?
who is this person? And then that's when you start to make a buying decision in your mind. And that's when you basically take that person through the funnel of being a total stranger to eventually becoming the customer for you. So
Okay, that's really fantastic. Why don't businesses in Nigeria, or let's say in West Africa, do these things, like this digital marketing stuff? Why don't I mean, because we hardly find a vast majority of businesses in Nigeria, but not just in Nigeria, I think globally, right? A lot of people are not investing as much as you would think they should in digital marketing. And I want to know your perspective why that is. Is it lack of adequate information? Or is it like skepticism in will it work, will it not work? Or is it just based on, maybe budgets? Why don't people do these things to get more customers? Because I know digital marketing works.
it does work. So I'll give a contrarian view here. Um, let's say for Nigeria, for example, and say like for lots of sub-Saharan countries, I think we vastly overestimate how many people have, would I say, not just access to digital platform, but also have the buying power to actually be a customer for most products that are mostly digital based products. So when I say a product that's based digitally, I mean everything from a banking app. Yeah, usually banking apps, health tech apps. Let's say banking app, health tech app. You have to consider the fact that most people, even people who are educated enough to be a potential customer of a health tech app, or people who are a potential customer of a bank, they simply might not just have the buying power to be like an active customer of this. So lots of people who are in these industries for years, people who have been in, maybe people who have run hospitals, people who have run lots of stuff within the health sector, or perhaps people who have done financial services, especially old banks, they sort of understand like where the buying power actually is. So usually the goal of marketing is to meet people where they are. And most of these people, the vast majority of people are usually not people you actually find online, contrary to what you might believe, especially like if you're in a bubble. If you're looking for people the number of people who are likely to conduct business on, say, a new banking app or digital wallets, I think it's much smaller than you'd actually believe. In fact, according to several estimates and my own personal estimates, I would say out of a country of, say, 200 million people, we're thinking about a population of, say, 10 million, 5 million people or less. I mean people who are actively there and ready to be
Activated as customers.
activated as customers. We're thinking say around 5 million people. So usually they're like working with the reality, because I mean it's easy to feel okay just because you happen to be within those 5 million people. I mean that can afford financial services, that can afford health tech or whatever.
Mm.
It's easy to think, oh yeah, this is what most of a particular country really is. But then when you really scale it out, most people, in fact, when we're actually talking of people who can really contribute to the bottom line of, say, food tech, contributes to bottom line of health tech, it's a really small subsection of people. It might really be, say, in thousands of people who can really drive scale. Because before you have to think about running a food tech company, you have to think about how many people can afford food
Yeah.
in the first place. You have to
Type the order online.
yeah, the type you order online. You have to think about people that can actually afford food in the first place before you think about food tech. And these people, a lot of people have actually spent money, and it's the result of this data that makes them say double down on trying to attract people where they are, which might not necessarily be online all the time, or which might not be in traditional type digital marketing services such as ads. It might be in maybe partnerships with people that they recognize, or maybe people that they recognize, maybe from their favorite Nollywood shows.
Celebrities.
Yeah, they're celebrities or something like that. So
Okay.
so yeah, it's just the dynamic, especially like where we're from.
I guess that makes a lot of sense. So I guess my next question now is how does someone get into digital marketing? Because the term digital marketing has been thrown around a lot. And this term digital marketing has been around for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for more than 10 years, I've been hearing about digital marketing, 15 years, that's been around. And of course, that's evolved over time. So will you call it saturated? Are there still opportunities for more digital marketers in the space? Or, so how does somebody become a digital marketer? Basically.
I would say, to be honest, I'm not the most sure about how to start career-wise, but I would say something you have to think about ways to get yourself like through the door. And I would say something that typically works is finding internships, whether it's unpaid or paid internships.
Yeah.
So I would say finding a company that already has interns, or maybe that already has senior management, that has like a certain number of employees and is probably looking for either free services, that probably needs free marketing or needs like very low paid marketing, is a very good way to start. And of course, before you do that, you definitely have to learn.
Learn, of course. I wanted to point that out.
You have to learn, first of all, like how to be a marketer. One of the more effective ways to learn is not just, of course, having a course. Having courses are great, but also having mentors that will show you the ways that what you learn can be implemented, and also mentors that can help you make the right career decisions and even connect you to potential career opportunities, such as these internships.
Yeah.
Is a really good way to break into the profession.
Okay. Yeah, so you've talked about learning first of all,
Mm.
and which is like getting courses. Then second part of learning, which is mentorship,
Yeah,
and then the third part is looking for internship and where you can just volunteer
yeah,
for free in order to build your portfolio.
yeah.
What are some secrets to succeed as a digital marketer living in Nigeria? Of course, I know we've previously talked about the fact that okay, so most Nigerian companies are not spending on digital marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So then, how then do digital marketers survive in an environment as tough as this? When the economy is not good, people are cutting down their marketing budget. People are telling you, "Oh no, I can't spend on digital marketing now." How does a digital marketer survive and make money as a digital marketer?
So I'll say number one, just like almost every other profession, if you might have a primary source of income, I think it would be worth considering expanding that, perhaps having um, some side income. So that could come in form of perhaps selling courses, selling training, like you do. Perhaps also finding new freelance type clients. I'll say just like every other profession, perhaps something people should try to do is, of course, expanding their income, of course, through side gigs, freelance work, and that's I think actually freelancing it's an entire topic of its own.
Yeah.
But hey, I would say freelancing is something to try, even though you have a source of income by itself. Because I think most people just can't necessarily survive with just one source of income. And secondly, I'll say something to consider is to try and transition to companies that are online. Right now, there are lots of companies out there that are usually looking for remote talent from all over the world, and they're usually like industries where that's the norm, like the industry where I am, which is Web3. I personally tend to focus within the Web3 space, which is for the uninitiated, which is for companies that deal with cryptocurrencies, blockchain, NFTs, the metaverse, and related concepts like that. So that's usually what I specialize in, and generally, I would say if you're in Nigeria, you can also think, not just companies in, say, first world countries or whatever. You can also think about like customers, freelance clients in all over Africa, all over Asia, all over the Middle East. Some of these people might be easier to convert, as regards, remote opportunities, or as regards, freelance type opportunities. So I think one should try and hunt for work in developed countries, middle income countries, and also try to get more freelance work locally. I would say
Yeah.
if you're trying to make ends meet as digital marketer.
So I don't want to go into too much practicalization of what that would look like. But I would like to at least throw us a bone here. How do you
Okay.
position yourself to attract those kinds of clients? Or where do you go to get those kind of clients?
So I'll say my as regards like trying to get those kinds of clients, I'll say my main hunting ground is LinkedIn. So usually, with LinkedIn or any other social platform, like the entire goal here is to try and brand yourself personally and make yourself easily accessible to people that might need your services. For me, I kind of take it into hyperdrive. As regards personal branding, I have done everything from building out like an expansive LinkedIn profile to getting myself on international publications to talk about marketing,
Yeah.
get myself into international events where I do the exact same, built myself a podcast, which is actually on hiatus now. I actually do have a podcast actually, but it's more weighted towards an international community, more like a local one. So it's mostly like international guests. Also, having a newsletter, having resources that are useful, not just to people within a certain geography, but elsewhere. I had a newsletter for jobs within the Web3 space. I had lots of resources like marketing playbook that are useful not just to Nigerians, but like for people who are trying to do marketing in Web3 elsewhere. So I'd say, yeah, position yourself as somebody of value and make that value to be easily visible somewhere. For me, I don't know. I'll say, yeah, I tend to like go, I won't say overboard, but I tend to like do things like maybe at a probably at a higher level, but for example, I have a website. I don't just have an expansive LinkedIn profile. I have a website.
Yeah, I saw your
My
website.
website, yeah, contains my portfolio.
Yeah, it's quite
It
cool.
contains a few other things. So generally, as regards, I think of myself or as my service as something to optimize conversions for. So just the same way you're a digital marketer and you are trying to just, basically, as a marketer, if you're selling your services, you are at the opposite end of the funnel, and the top end of the funnel is usually your discovery. So first things first, you have to find ways that people discover you. You can use social media. I tend to like using LinkedIn as
Yeah.
a place where people will discover you. Then comes the consideration stage. So why would people consider you over people that they can see in front of them? So that will include personal branding on either social media or through a website,
Yeah.
through
Content you're creating.
content you're creating in different places, content placements, your placements in different events, in different types of settings that show you as competent and with other people
Yeah.
that would be considered trustworthy. And then the final thing is, of course, at the end of that funnel is you. Is you eventually. So the final thing is, of course, you trying to convert these people as clients, either as clients or as employers. So I would say, of course, that's on a case by case basis. That's on a case by case basis. Like how strong your credentials are, how strong your skill set is. That's usually what determines whether you're able to close these people. But then you don't have to. You don't have to start with all of that. You can create portfolio from a third party website. You can start to build up yourself with content on LinkedIn. You can find yourself, or you can place yourself in international communities where there are other people, like you looking to get discovered. And then you can try to build community, build yourself, a client base or an employer base from there. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Every guest I bring on this podcast, one phrase has kept repeating himself. Every guest I bring on this podcast kept repeating one particular phrase: personal branding, putting yourself out there, personal branding. And I want you guys to understand that this is the key to really accessing what the world has to offer you. And everybody keeps mentioning LinkedIn. So if at this stage of you listening to this podcast till now, you haven't really just gotten active on LinkedIn, especially as somebody with this skill, I guess you haven't taken your personal development seriously. I want to ask one last question now, which is before we get into more soft, conversations. And what are some of the tools for digital marketing? Talk about your favorites, and then some general. Stuff.
Man, it depends on what exactly you are trying to achieve. But I'll say some that's work. I don't know, like how beginner friendly some of these would be. So it depends on like what you're trying to achieve. For example, I'm in the Web3 space, and usually we have to check for data and attribution within blockchain. So one of the tools I love is called Cookie3. It basically is like it does what Google Analytics does, plus what a tracking software like Firebase, more like Google Analytics, Amplitude, but for on-chain stuff.
Okay.
I like Cookie3. I like as regarding suites for general communications, I like HubSpot.
HubSpot, of course. I know you will mention HubSpot for sure.
Yeah. I just like HubSpot for convenience. I hardly use HubSpot anymore. It's been at least maybe a year I've used HubSpot last, but I mean, just for convenience of using just one platform, it's cool. But generally, I would say tools tend to depend on your particular needs. Every day, I can't imagine how many tools I use.
Okay.
Oh, hey, sorry. I forgot to mention this. Yes, AI bots. Oh yeah, how could I even forget? Yes.
Yeah, AI is like key.
Yeah, so I would say as a tool, like something that people underestimate is how much AI can be like your personal assistant. In fact, these days, before I even start to ideate on a marketing strategy or flesh out content calendar, or even sometimes look for tools for a specific problem, or maybe, just small things, I usually tend to ask an AI bot. I personally like Gemini for a plethora of reasons, but
are you serious?
Yeah, personally use Gemini.
I thought Gemini was dumb as what? As a nail. compared to other stuff I use.
Yeah.
Like,
But I personally prefer Gemini. I think anyway, there are many reasons. Maybe maybe trade secrets. I prefer Gemini. So like lots of people use GPT.
I use Cloud. Claude.
Yeah, I've never ever used Cloud, and oddly enough, I've made content on Cloud, but I've never used Cloud, which is funny, right? But I've never used Cloud. But I personally use Gemini for everything except image generation. Because right now, because of the controversy they had, they don't generate images at this time. Um, but yeah, pretty much a lot of my needs.
What do you use for email newsletter?
For a newsletter, not for email marketing, because email marketing is slightly different. For a newsletter,
Okay, email marketing, email newsletter. Just give us.
I use Substack, and I use for a newsletter. I like to use Substack, of course, because of how it's shareable at the blog, and because of monetization. Yeah, there's this other new one. I can't remember its name. Yeah, I can't believe I can't remember its name. But I love the fact that I can't remember its name. But anyway, I tend to use Substack for newsletters. For email marketing, I like MailerLite. It's called
Okay.
it's this tool called MailerLite.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's really lightweight. It's not too expensive, and it has integrations with a lot of things, and it's less problematic than I find some other names. I'm not going to mention the names.
Yeah.
I found it just generally less problematic and full of good support. So I'll say MailerLite for general email marketing, and for newsletters, Substack.
Substack.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into personal stuff now. I hope you guys are getting value from this podcast because these are digital marketers will understand. But of course, if you don't understand what we're talking about here, I think it's a call for you to study more, basically, because these are things that are real nitty-gritty. Although I will know that Elvis is a high-end digital marketer. He's not like your beginner-level digital marketer, because just like I say, he's more focused on Web3. That's the industry he decided to focus his skills on, and he's doing fantastic in that industry. Let's talk personal stuff now. I would have asked you which movie you watch, but I know you're not a movie person. Or should I say you're too busy to watch movies? Because I know there's a lot of work on your head right now. So much stuff. So let's talk about your relationship status, how you're enjoying relationship life, you know.
Yeah.
I give guys like us some advice. So or make us jealous. I'll say.
Yeah. I'm in a relationship. I'm happily in a relationship. Almost yeah, I'm in a really strong relationship. Hi. Yeah. Yeah, she's probably going to watch this, and she's been really integral to, I guess, making me not to work myself into the ground a lot. So she's there not to help me or work myself into the ground a lot, and in fact sometimes she even helps me with different things. Like for example, she's a recruiter, and thankfully she's been giving me advice and giving me resources on recruiting for a project I'm on. So yeah, there's that, and it helps to definitely have somebody who can, you know, help you be happy outside of work, because yeah, it's not advisable if of all of your happiness and fulfillment is outside of work. There needs to be something out of that for a balance. So yeah, I'm in a relationship, and she's that person.
I mean, that's true. That's like, you're not throwing us a bone here now. Give us some. What are some of the fun things she forces you to do, for instance?
Yeah, she actually makes me watch series which I hardly watch. I watch some of the series I'm unlikely to watch on my own. I think one we started was I think it's called The Furies. And more recently, she had me start to watch Vikings, which I never watched Vikings before. I started to watch it more recently. Aside from that, of course, we go on dates, which is really good. Of course, there are food dates. There are lots of other interesting dates. And definitely, she's a really good cook. So
You eat at home most of the time.
so yeah, it's really good to like, it's really home cooked food. when you're in a relationship. So I think like that's a really good advantage if you
I think you just hit the lottery there. That food part is where you just hit the lottery because, of course, let's not go into how unpopular that is in times like this. Okay, let me leave it there before we anger some set of people. Thank you so much, Elvis, for coming on the
man.
Tech Culture podcast. And I really appreciate some of the tips you've shared. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that everybody that wants to get into digital marketing would watch this episode over and over again because there's some really useful things that have been said in this particular episode, especially in terms of how to get started, how to get clients, how to position yourself to be a freelancer that earns a lot of money in the digital marketing space. Thank you so, so much. And I hope that you would come on the tech corner community to mentor us, to mentor some of our students in digital marketing. So I'm using this now to hold him down because generally you don't want to do it. Thank you so much. So guys, thank you so much for being on this episode of the Tech Culture Podcast. I hope that you subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and I'll see you on the very next episode of the Tech Culture Show.